You don't wait for the world to calm down. You learn to operate while it's on fire. Chaos destroys the unprepared, but sharpens the strategic. Sun Tzu didn't just survive disorder. He used it. Confusion is not the end of control. It's pamamar, the beginning of opportunity for those who remain still while others scramble. You don't need things to go your way. You need the mindset that adjusts, that anticipates, that capitalizes. Be the one who watches, not reacts. Then strike when clarity returns. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? Listen carefully. The world teaches you to fear disorder, to run from confusion, to wait for stability before you act. This is the thinking of the defeated before they even begin. I have watched armies crumble not from superior force, but from their inability to think clearly when the ground beneath them shifted. I have seen merchants lose fortunes not because the market was hostile, but because they froze when patterns changed. I have witnessed leaders fall not because their enemies were stronger, but because they could not see opportunity hiding inside disruption. Here's what most people don't understand. Chaos is not random. It follows laws. It has rhythm. It creates gaps that the prepared mind can exploit. When your competitor panics, you gain advantage. When systems break down, new systems can be built. When old rules no longer apply, you can write new ones. But only if you trained yourself to think while others merely react. The art of war is not about fighting in perfect conditions. It is about creating victory from imperfect ones. Every battle I have studied, every campaign I have planned, every enemy I have defeated, the turning point came not when everything was clear, but when everything was unclear, and I alone could see the path forward. Most people believe chaos is the absence of order. They are wrong. Chaos is the reorganization of order. The elements are still there. The forces still exist. They are simply arranging themselves into new patterns. Your job is not to stop this process. Your job is to guide it. But let me ask you this. When your world shifts, do you spend your energy complaining about the shift? Or do you spend it positioning yourself for what comes next? The weak mind seeks to return to what was. The strategic mind seeks to shape what will be. When the earthquake hits, everyone else is looking backward at what fell down. You should be looking forward at what can now be built. This is not about accepting chaos. This is about using it. Every disruption creates a void. Every void creates opportunity. Every opportunity belongs to whoever moves first with intention, rather than first with emotion. The enemy advances, I retreat. The enemy camps, I harass. The enemy tires, I attack. The enemy retreats, I pursue. These are not tactics for perfect battlefields. These are principles for imperfect ones. They work because they assume nothing will go according to plan. Your strength is not measured by how well you perform when everything is stable. Your strength is measured by how effectively you operate when everything is unstable. This is the difference between the warrior and the worrier. When confusion arrives at your door, do not ask why it came. Ask what it brought with it. Do not curse the storm for disturbing your peace. Thank it for revealing who has been building their house on sand. The master understands that disorder is simply order that has not yet been recognized. The pattern exists. The logic remains. The advantage is waiting. But it belongs only to the mind that stays calm while others lose their heads. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. In panic, people move without aim. You must become the eye in the storm. The moment crisis hits, watch what happens around you. Everyone begins to move at once. They call it action. I call it waste. Motion without direction is not progress. It is panic wearing the mask of productivity. True power comes not from moving first, but from moving correctly. And you cannot move correctly until you see clearly. You cannot see clearly until you stop moving frantically. I have commanded armies where one calm decision outweighed 1,000 frantic ones. I have observed markets where the patient investor outlasted 12 impulsive traders. I have studied crises where the composed leader emerged stronger, while the reactive leader emerged broken. The untrained mind believes that speed equals strength. The strategic mind knows that stillness equals clarity, and clarity equals victory. When others scramble, they reveal their weaknesses. They show you their fears. They telegraph their next moves. They exhaust their resources on meaningless actions. They become predictable in their unpredictability. But here's what most people don't understand. Your stillness is not inaction. It is the most powerful action you can take. It is the foundation upon which every subsequent victory is built. The river that cuts the deepest canyon is not the one that rushes wildest. It is the one that flows most persistently in the same direction. Your mind must become this river, steady, focused, relentless in its calm. When your competitor panics and slashes prices, you hold your position. When your colleague reacts emotionally to criticism, you respond with facts. When the market swings violently, you execute your plan exactly as written. This is not stubbornness. This is strategy. The master swordsman does not flail wildly when attacked. He centers himself, watches the opponent's pattern, then strikes once with precision. One perfect strike defeats 1,000 desperate swings. In all chaos, everyone else is looking for what to do next. You should be observing what they are doing now. In crisis, everyone else is trying to control the situation. You should be controlling yourself. But let me ask you this. When pressure builds around you, do you add to the pressure, or do you become the space within which pressure can exist? The eye of the hurricane is not empty space. It is organized space. It is space that has found its center while everything around it spins out of control. This is what you must become in every crisis. Not absent from the storm, but present within it. Your competitors will exhaust themselves with emergency meetings. You will use this time to gather intelligence. They will make hasty decisions to feel like they are doing something. You will make deliberate decisions because you understand what needs to be done. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is movement that is so perfectly aligned with purpose that it appears effortless. The master archer does not struggle to draw the bow. The master negotiator does not strain to find the right words. The master strategist does not panic to find the right move. When others scatter their energy in all directions, you concentrate yours in one direction. When others react to every stimulus, you respond only to the significant ones. When others move because they feel they must, you move because you choose to. This is not about being slow. This is about being intentional. Speed without direction is worthless. Action without strategy is dangerous. Movement without purpose is exhaustion, disguised as effort. The battlefield belongs to whoever can think clearly while others think desperately. The market belongs to whoever can see opportunity while others see only crisis. The future belongs to whoever can remain calm while others remain confused. Your stillness becomes their uncertainty. Your calm becomes their chaos. Your clarity becomes their confusion. This is how the prepared mind defeats the panicked masses. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. You don't rise by instinct. You rise because you trained your mind to stay calm. Listen to me carefully. The person who remains clear thinking under pressure was not born that way. They trained that way. Clarity in crisis is not a gift from heaven. It is a skill forged through deliberate practice. Every master I have studied, every victory I have achieved, every advantage I have gained, none of it happened because I was naturally gifted at handling chaos. It happened because I practiced handling chaos when there was no chaos to handle. The greatest mistake people make is believing that courage, clarity, and composure will appear when they need them most. They will not. They appear when you have trained them to appear. They are muscles that must be strengthened before the weight gets heavy. I trained my mind to stay focused by practicing focus in small moments. I trained my judgment to stay sharp by making decisions when the stakes were low. I trained my emotions to stay steady by controlling them when they were manageable. When the real battle came, My mind was already prepared. When the real crisis arrived, my thinking was already disciplined. When the real pressure mounted, my clarity was already trained. But here's what most people don't understand. You cannot develop mental strength by avoiding mental challenges. You develop it by seeking them out, by embracing them, by using them. As training grounds for the bigger battles ahead, the warrior who has never sparred will freeze in real combat. The leader who has never faced difficult decisions will crumble under important ones. The mind that has never been tested will break when the test matters most. You must create difficulty for yourself before difficulty creates itself for you. You must practice staying calm in small storms before the hurricane arrives. You must train your thinking when thinking is easy, so it remains sharp when thinking becomes hard. This is not about becoming emotionless. This is about becoming choiceful. When anger rises, you choose your response. When fear appears, you choose your action. When confusion spreads, you choose your focus. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you deliberately put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to strengthen your mental discipline? The amateur waits for crisis to develop crisis skills. The professional develops crisis skills before crisis arrives. This is why some people thrive under pressure while others collapse under it. It is not about natural ability, it is about unnatural preparation. Every day presents you with small opportunities to train your mind. The difficult conversation you avoid, that's training you're refusing. The challenging project you delegate, that's strength you're not building. The uncomfortable decision you postpone, that's preparation you're missing. Your mind is like a muscle. Use it or lose it. Challenge it or weaken it. Train it or trust it to fail you when you need it most. I practiced making decisions quickly by setting time limits on small choices. I practiced staying calm by deliberately entering stressful situations. I practiced thinking clearly by working through complex problems when I was tired, hungry, or distracted. When the real emergency came, these were not new skills I had to learn. They were familiar tools I had already sharpened. The crisis did not shock my system. It activated my training. Mental clarity is not about being smart. It is about being prepared. It is not about having all the answers. It is about having the process to find the right answers quickly. The mind that panics is the mind that has never practiced staying calm. The mind that freezes is the mind that has never practiced making decisions under pressure. The mind that breaks is the mind that has never practiced bending without breaking. Your competitors are hoping their natural abilities will carry them through the storm. You should be training your abilities to carry you above it. Train in peacetime. Execute in wartime. This is the path of the strategic mind. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. Use the energy of disorder. Flow with it. Bend through it. Then redirect it. The fool fights the storm. The master uses the storm. Water does not struggle against the rock. It flows around it, through it, until the rock itself is changed. This is the principle you must understand if you want to transform chaos into advantage. I have watched armies exhaust themselves fighting conditions they could not control. I have seen businesses destroy themselves, resisting changes they could not prevent. I have observed leaders break themselves opposing forces they could have redirected. The storm has energy, massive energy. You can waste your strength fighting that energy, or you can learn to harness it. The choice determines whether you emerge from chaos stronger or weaker than when you entered it. When market conditions shift against your business, you do not waste resources trying to make the market return to its previous state. You adapt your business to the new market conditions. When your industry transforms, you do not fight the transformation. You position yourself to benefit from it. This is not surrender. This is strategy. There is a difference between accepting defeat and accepting reality. You accept reality so you can change your position within it. The wise general does not fight. The weather, he uses it. Rain favors different tactics than sunshine. Wind changes the trajectory of arrows, Mud slows heavy cavalry, but hides the movement of light infantry. The conditions are what they are. Your advantage comes from adapting to them faster than your opponent. But here's what most people don't understand. Positioning within the storm requires you to feel the storm, not resist it. You must develop sensitivity to the forces at play, so you can flow with them rather than against them. The martial artist does not block every attack with brute force. He redirects the attacker's energy using momentum against momentum, turning strength into weakness. This is how small forces defeat large ones. This is how intelligence defeats power. When someone pushes you, you do not always push back. Sometimes you step aside and let their force carry them past you. Sometimes you pull in the same direction they are pushing, causing them to lose balance. Sometimes you redirect their push toward a target of your choosing. But let me ask you this: when change hits your life, do you spend your energy fighting the change, or do you spend it positioning yourself within the change? The tree that survives the hurricane is not the one that refuses to bend. It is the one that bends so completely that the wind passes through it instead of breaking it. Your mind must become this tree. Flexibility is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. The steel that bends under pressure will spring back to its original shape. The steel that refuses to bend will shatter. When your competitor launches an aggressive campaign against you, you do not necessarily respond with aggression. You might respond with precision or patience or strategic withdrawal. You let their aggression create momentum, then you redirect that momentum toward your advantage. The river does not fight the mountain. It finds the path through the mountain. Over time, the river creates the canyon. The mountain remains, but the river has carved its permanent place within it. Your goal is not to eliminate the forces working against you. Your goal is to position yourself so those forces work for you instead. Every pressure can become a tool. Every obstacle can become a stepping stone. Every storm can become the wind in your sails. This requires a shift in thinking. Instead of asking, "How do I stop this?" ask, "How do I use this?" Instead of, "How do I avoid this challenge?" ask, "How do I flow through this challenge?" The master understands that resistance creates friction, and friction creates heat, and heat creates destruction. But alignment creates momentum, and momentum creates power, and power creates victory. Position yourself within the chaos. Find the currents that are moving in your direction. Ride them. Redirect the ones moving against you. This is how you turn every storm into your personal tailwind. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. Your opponent's chaos is your curtain. Hide your move behind it. The greatest victories are won not in clear daylight, but in the fog of confusion, when your enemy cannot see what you are doing until it is too late to stop you. Chaos is not just an obstacle to overcome, it is a weapon to wield. I have achieved my most decisive victories not when the battlefield was clear, but when it was clouded. Not when my enemy could see my strategy, but when their vision was obscured by their own disorder. Confusion is the perfect cover for strategic action. When your competitors are distracted by crisis, you gain market share. When your industry is disrupted by change, you position for the next phase. When others are paralyzed by uncertainty, you move with certainty toward targets they cannot even see. The amateur seeks clarity before acting. The master acts while others seek clarity. By the time the smoke clears, the master has already claimed the territory that everyone else is still trying to understand. But here's what most people don't understand. Confusion is not random. It has patterns. It has rhythms. It has blind spots. Learn to read these patterns, and you can use confusion as your ally rather than your enemy. When a company is going through major restructuring, attention is scattered. Resources are reallocated. Decision-making is slower. This is the perfect time for a competitor to launch precise initiatives that would normally be noticed and countered quickly. When an industry is transforming, old players are focused on protecting what they have. New players are focused on building what they want. Neither is watching for the strategic moves happening in the spaces between. This is where opportunity lives. The stock market crash creates panic selling. While everyone else is watching their losses, the prepared investor is watching for undervalued assets. The chaos that destroys one portfolio builds another. But let me ask you this. When confusion spreads around you, are you joining the confusion, or are you using it as cover for your clearest thinking and most decisive action? The magician understands this principle perfectly. The trick happens not when the audience is paying attention, but when their attention is misdirected. The real move happens behind the obvious move. The advantage is gained while everyone is looking somewhere else. Your competitors are human. When they are overwhelmed, their peripheral vision narrows. When they are stressed, their reaction time slows. When they are confused, their guard drops. These moments of vulnerability are your moments of opportunity. This is not about taking advantage of people's suffering. This is about taking advantage of people's distraction. While they are solving yesterday's problems, you are positioning for tomorrow's opportunities. The wise general attacks when the enemy is regrouping. The smart entrepreneur launches when competitors are restructuring. The strategic mind moves when others are still processing what just happened. Timing is everything. The same move that fails in clarity succeeds in confusion. The same strategy that gets blocked in normal times goes unnoticed in chaotic times. The same advantage that would be competed away in stable markets can be secured in unstable ones. You must train yourself to see clearly when others cannot. You must develop the ability to think strategically when others are thinking reactively. You must learn to move purposefully when others are moving frantically. Confusion creates gaps in awareness, gaps in attention, gaps in defense. These gaps are temporary, but they are real. The strategic mind learns to recognize these gaps and move through them before they close. Your goal is not to create confusion for its own sake. Your goal is to recognize when confusion exists naturally and use it as concealment for your most important moves while others are asking, "What is happening?" You should already be asking, "How can I use what is happening?" While others are trying to reduce confusion, you should be trying to exploit it. The battlefield belongs to whoever can see clearly through the smoke. The market belongs to whoever can act decisively amid the noise. The future belongs to whoever can move strategically while others move chaotically. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. He who adjusts first wins first. Flexibility is the sharpest blade in chaos. Speed is not about moving fast. Speed is about moving first. And moving first is not about reaction time. It is about recognition time. The master sees the change before others see the change, adapts before others adapt, and wins before others realize the game has shifted. I have studied countless battles where victory belonged not to the strongest army, but to the most adaptable one. I have observed markets where profit belonged not to the biggest company, but to the most flexible one. I have witnessed crises where survival belonged not to the most prepared, but to the most responsive. The problem with most people is they adapt to what happened, not to what is happening. They change in response to yesterday's crisis while today's opportunity passes them by. They fight the last war while the new war begins around them. But here's what most people don't understand. Adaptation is not just about changing your tactics. It is about changing faster than your environment changes. It is about becoming the variable that controls other variables instead of the variable controlled by them. When technology disrupts your industry, you do not spend 6 months studying the disruption. You spend 6 weeks adapting to it. When customer preferences shift, you do not wait for market research to confirm the shift. You shift with the preferences and let your competitors wait for confirmation. The difference between the successfuls and the struggling is not that one faces fewer changes than the other. It is that one adapts to changes faster than the other. Speed of adaptation determines who profits from change and who suffers from it. Evolution teaches us this principle. The species that survives is not the strongest or the smartest. It is the one most responsive to change. The same law applies to businesses, to careers, to strategies, to life itself. But let me ask you this. When change comes to your world, do you spend more time analyzing it or adapting to it? The military commander who waits for perfect intelligence before adjusting his strategy will find himself commanding a defeated army. The business leader who waits for complete market data before pivoting will find herself leading a bankrupt company. The individual who waits for certainty before adapting will find himself left behind by those who adapted while uncertain. Adaptation is not about abandoning your principles. It is about expressing your principles through new methods. The river maintains its essential nature to flow toward the sea, while constantly adapting its path around obstacles. Your core purpose remains constant. Your methods must remain fluid. The key is to adapt the non-essential quickly so you can preserve the essential effectively. Change what must be changed. Preserve what must be preserved. Know the difference between the two. Your competitors are probably having long meetings about how to respond to new market conditions. You should be responding to those conditions while they are still meeting about them. Action creates information faster than analysis creates certainty. The swordsman who adapts his technique mid-fight survives. The one who clings to his original strategy dies. The entrepreneur who adapts her business model mid-market shift thrives. The one who protects her original model fails. This requires you to hold your plans lightly and your goals firmly. Be willing to change how you get there. Be unwilling to change where you are going. Flexibility in tactics, rigidity in purpose. Most people are rigid where they should be flexible, and flexible where they should be rigid. They change their goals when things get difficult, but refuse to change their methods when methods stop working. The master understands that in a changing environment, your competitive advantage is not your ability to plan perfectly. It is your ability to adjust quickly. Not your power to predict the future, but your speed in responding to it. Change is not a problem to be solved. It is a game to be won. And the winner is always the player who adapts faster than the game evolves. Watch the signs. Feel the shifts. Move quickly. While others are still debating whether change is happening, you should already be capitalizing on the fact that it has happened. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. Every collapse has a rhythm. Learn to feel it, then strike on beat. Chaos appears random to the untrained eye, but the strategic mind sees deeper. Beneath every storm is a pattern. Behind every crisis is a cycle. Within every collapse is a rhythm. That, once understood, becomes your greatest advantage. I have watched empires fall and seen that their destruction followed predictable stages. I have observed market crashes and noticed they moved through identical phases. I have studied human panic and discovered it flows according to recognizable patterns. The noise that confuses everyone else contains the signal that guides you. Your job is not to eliminate the noise. Your job is to find the music within it. Every industry has cycles. Expansion, peak, contraction, trough, recovery. Most players react to each phase as if it were unexpected. The master recognizes which phase is current and positions for the next phase before it arrives. Every negotiation has rhythms: opening positions, testing, concessions, pressure, breakthrough, agreement. Most negotiators stumble through these stages accidentally. The strategic negotiator orchestrates them intentionally. Every crisis has patterns: shock, denial, anger, exploration, acceptance, growth. Most people experience these stages passively. The prepared mind moves through them actively. But here's what most people don't understand. Once you recognize the pattern, you can predict the next movement. Once you can predict the next movement, you can position yourself to benefit from it. Once you position correctly, you turn chaos into cash flow. When everyone else sees random events, you see connected events. When everyone else reacts to symptoms, You respond to causes. When everyone else is surprised by what happens next, you are already prepared for it. The stock market moves in waves. The disciplined investor learns to read these waves, riding them up and shorting them down. The panicked investor gets caught by every wave, buying high when euphoria peaks and selling low when despair bottoms. But let me ask you this: when chaos surrounds you, are you looking for the random events that confuse you or the recurring patterns that could guide you? The master musician does not hear noise. He hears harmonies, rhythms, melodies within complexity. What sounds like cacophony to others sounds like opportunity to him. Your mind must develop this same sensitivity. Pattern recognition is a learnable skill. Start with small observations. Notice how people behave under stress. Notice how markets react to news. Notice how organizations respond to pressure. The patterns exist. Train your mind to see them. Every competitor has patterns: how they price their products, how they launch new services, how they respond to competition. Most businesses react to these patterns after they manifest. The strategic business anticipates these patterns before they manifest. Every customer has patterns: how they make decisions, what triggers their purchases, when they are most receptive to new ideas. Most salespeople stumble into these patterns accidentally. The master salesperson identifies these patterns systematically. The key is to collect data while others collect emotions, to observe trends while others observe individual events, to think systematically while others think randomly. Patterns repeat because human nature repeats. Fear, greed, hope, despair, these cycle through markets, through organizations, through individuals with remarkable consistency. Learn the cycle, and you learn when to enter and when to exit. The wise general studies not just the current battle, but all previous battles. He finds the patterns that led to victory and the patterns that led to defeat. Then he recognizes these patterns when they begin to form in his own campaigns. Your advantage comes not from having better information than everyone else. Your advantage comes from seeing the patterns within the information that everyone else is ignoring or missing. Chaos is not the absence of order. It is order that is too complex for the unprepared mind to recognize. Train your mind to see deeper patterns, and chaos becomes your competitive intelligence system. The pattern is always there. The rhythm is always present. The signal is always transmitting. Your job is to develop the sensitivity to detect it and the wisdom to act on it. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. Most lose by acting too early. Watch longer. Move smarter. The impulse to act immediately when pressure builds is the impulse that destroys most strategies before they can succeed. The crowd moves fast. The master moves last. Not because he is slow, but because he is thorough. I have won more battles through patient observation than through quick action. I have gained more advantages by watching my enemies reveal themselves than by revealing myself to them. The power belongs to the one who sees more, not the one who moves first. When crisis hits, everyone becomes an expert in emergency action. They make rapid decisions, implement immediate changes, launch instant responses. This flurry of activity feels productive. It is usually destructive. The reactive mind believes that speed equals effectiveness. The strategic mind knows that timing equals effectiveness. Moving at the right moment defeats moving at the first moment. But here's what most people don't understand. Observation is not inaction. Observation is the most active thing you can do. It is the process by which you gather the intelligence that makes your eventual action decisive rather than desperate. When your competitor launches an aggressive campaign against you, your instinct is to counterattack immediately. Your wisdom is to observe first. How are customers responding? What are the campaign's weaknesses? Where is your competitor overextending? Your counterattack will be far more effective when it is based on observed reality rather than assumed. Threat. When market conditions shift dramatically, your impulse is to adjust your strategy immediately. Your advantage is to observe first. Who is adapting quickly? Who is adapting slowly? Who is adapting correctly? Who is adapting incorrectly? Your adjustment will be far more precise when it is based on observed outcomes rather than predicted ones. The hunter does not fire at the first sign of movement. He observes the pattern of movement, identifies the target, calculates the trajectory, then fires once with precision. One shot, one kill. This is more effective than spraying bullets in the general direction of noise. But let me ask you this. When pressure builds around you, is your first instinct to act or to observe? Do you move because you feel you must, or because you have seen what needs to be done? Most people fear that observation takes too much time. They are wrong. Hasty action takes more time than careful observation, because hasty action usually needs to be corrected, repeated, or completely redone. The general who scouts the enemy position before attacking wins more battles with fewer losses than the general who attacks immediately with maximum force. Reconnaissance saves more lives than courage. Your competitors are probably reacting to the same pressures you are feeling. Watch their reactions, study their decisions, learn from their mistakes. Let them be your early warning system and your testing ground. While they are experimenting with their resources, you are experimenting with your observations. While they are risking their capital, you are risking your assumptions. While they are betting their strategies, you are betting your attention. Observation reveals not just what your competitors are doing, but what they are not doing. The gaps in their response, the blind spots in their strategy, the weaknesses in their positioning. These gaps become your opportunities. The master poker player does not play his cards. He plays his opponent's cards. He observes their tells, their patterns, their emotional reactions. He wins not because his cards are better, but because his observations are sharper. Patience is not passive waiting. Patience is active watching. It is the discipline to gather intelligence before you commit resources. It is the wisdom to understand the situation before you attempt to change it. The rushed decision is usually the wrong decision. The hasty strategy is usually the failed strategy. The immediate response is usually the inadequate response. While others are acting on incomplete information, you are completing your information before acting. While others are guessing about what will work, you are observing what is working. While others are hoping their moves are correct, you are ensuring your moves are informed. This does not mean you wait forever. It means you wait long enough. Long enough to see the pattern. Long enough to spot the opportunity. Long enough to identify the precise moment when action becomes inevitable and overwhelming. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. Chaos is loud. Hide your sharpest attacks inside it. The master of strategy understands that noise creates cover. While everyone's attention is captured by the obvious drama, the decisive actions happen in the shadows. The storm that blinds your enemy becomes the darkness that conceals your movement. I have achieved my greatest victories not in the battles that everyone was watching, but in the maneuvers that no one noticed until they were complete. The loudest conflicts distract from the quietest conquests. When the market is volatile and everyone is focused on daily price swings, the strategic investor is quietly accumulating undervalued positions. When the industry is disrupted and everyone is discussing the disruption, the strategic company is silently building the infrastructure for the next phase. The magician makes the dramatic gesture with his right hand while his left hand performs the real trick. The master strategist creates the obvious move that captures attention while executing the subtle move that captures advantage. But here's what most people don't understand. Distraction is not just something that happens to others. It is something you can create, control, and direct toward your benefit. When you launch a new product, you do not just launch the product. You launch it alongside a marketing campaign that captures attention while quietly implementing the operational changes that will determine your long-term success. The marketing gets noticed. The operations get results. When you negotiate a major deal, you do not just focus on the main terms everyone expects to be negotiated. You use the complexity of those main terms to obscure the smaller terms that might matter more. The obvious negotiations distract from the subtle ones. Your competitors have limited attention. When that attention is consumed by responding to obvious challenges, it is not available for detecting subtle opportunities. Every mind can only focus on so much at once. Use this limitation as your advantage. But let me ask you this. When major events capture everyone's attention, are you joining the crowd looking at those events, or are you looking at what the crowd is not seeing while they watch those events? The wise general feints with his cavalry to draw the enemy's attention and reserves, then strikes with his infantry where the enemy is now weakest. The feint itself may fail, but its purpose was never to succeed. Its purpose was to create the conditions for the real attack to succeed. The smart entrepreneur launches a visible initiative that competitors feel compelled to respond to, while quietly developing the capabilities that will make competition irrelevant. The visible initiative may succeed or fail. The invisible capabilities will determine the future. This is not about deception for its own sake. This is about misdirection for strategic advantage. You are not lying about your intentions. You're managing attention so your most important intentions can be fulfilled without interference. Most people make the mistake of putting their most important work at the center of attention. This ensures that every obstacle, every competitor, every critic will focus their energy on stopping that work. The master puts his most important work at the edge of attention where it can develop without interference. The stock market crash creates headlines and panic. While everyone is focused on the crash, the prepared investor is focused on the opportunities the crash has created. The noise of the crash covers the sound of strategic accumulation. The industry transformation creates conferences and debates. While everyone is focused on the transformation, the strategic company is focused on positioning for the post-transformation landscape. The noise of the transformation covers the sound of strategic preparation. Distraction creates windows of opportunity. While your competitors are responding to the obvious threat, you're exploiting the overlooked opportunity. While they are defending against the visible attack, you are conquering the unguarded territory. The key is to understand what naturally distracts people. Then time your most important moves to coincide with those natural distractions. You do not need to create the distraction. You only need to recognize it and use it. Your precision strikes should be launched when precision is least expected. Your strategic moves should be made when strategic thinking is most difficult. Your decisive actions should be taken when decision-making is most chaotic. While the world watches the storm, you build the foundation for what comes after the storm. This is how you turn every crisis into your competitive advantage. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. When you remain composed in chaos, your silence becomes their panic. The most unsettling thing to an opponent is facing someone who appears completely unaffected by pressure that would break most people. Your composure becomes their confusion. Your stillness becomes their agitation. Your certainty becomes their doubt. I have observed that enemies make their worst mistakes, not when they are being attacked, but when they cannot understand why they are not being attacked. The general who remains calm while his city is under siege creates more fear in the besieging army than the general who races frantically to organize defenses. When everyone around you is losing their minds, your ability to keep yours becomes a weapon. It suggests you know something they do not. It implies you have resources they cannot see. It indicates you have planned for scenarios they have not considered. The negotiator who remains relaxed while others grow desperate gains psychological advantage before any words are exchanged. The leader who stays focused while others panic inspires confidence in allies and creates doubt in enemies. The investor who holds steady while markets crash signals either foolishness or wisdom, and the difference is usually determined by the outcome. But here's what most people don't understand. Your calm is not just about controlling yourself. It is about influencing others. Your internal state becomes their external reality. Your composure shapes their anxiety. When competitors see you expanding while they are contracting, they begin to question their own strategies. When customers see you steady while others are unstable, they gravitate toward your reliability. When markets see you confident while others are fearful, they start to wonder what you understand that they do not. Your composure forces others to fill the silence with their own assumptions. And human assumptions under pressure are usually wrong. They assume you have better information. They assume you have superior resources. They assume you have anticipated scenarios they have missed. But let me ask you this. When chaos surrounds you, does your energy add to the chaos or provide an alternative to it? The calm person in a room full of panicked people becomes the natural leader, not because they have formal authority, but because they have emotional authority. People gravitate towards stability when everything else feels unstable. Your competitors are probably holding emergency meetings, making rapid adjustments, implementing immediate changes. Your calm suggests you do not need emergency meetings because you planned for this scenario. Your steady pace suggests you do not need rapid adjustments because your strategy was already flexible. Your consistent behavior suggests you do not need immediate changes because your foundation was already solid. This perception may or may not be accurate, but perception influences reality. When others believe you are more prepared than you actually are, they often make decisions that make you more prepared than you actually were. The poker player who remains expressionless while holding a weak hand often wins the pot because opponents cannot read the weakness. The poker player who remains expressionless while holding a strong hand often wins more than the pot because opponents bet more aggressively against perceived weakness. Your calm creates a mirror. Others see their own emotional state reflected back to them, amplified. The panicked person sees their panic multiplied in contrast to your composure. The fearful person sees their fear magnified against your confidence. This is not about being emotionless. This is about being choiceful about which emotions you display and when you display them. Your internal experience can be intense while your external expression remains controlled. The master understands that in chaos, information is incomplete and assumptions fill the gaps. By controlling the information you provide through your composure, you influence the assumptions others make, and their assumptions influence their actions. While others are broadcasting their emotional state for everyone to read, you are maintaining strategic ambiguity. While others are revealing their hand through their reactions, you're keeping your cards close to your chest. Your competitors cannot develop effective strategies against you if they cannot accurately assess your position, your resources, or your intentions. Your calm keeps all three in question. The stillness of deep water suggests either emptiness or great depth. Your enemies must guess which one they are facing. Their guess will determine their approach. Their approach will determine their vulnerability. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. Go. While others retreat, you advance. The battlefield is always open for the focused. The greatest opportunities are found not in contested ground, but in abandoned ground. When chaos comes, most people retreat to safety. This retreat creates vacuums. These vacuums create opportunities. These opportunities belong to whoever is brave enough to advance while others withdraw. I have built empires not by taking territory from strong opponents, but by claiming territory that strong opponents chose to abandon. The land they retreated from became the foundation of my expansion. Their withdrawal became my advancement. When economic uncertainty hits, companies cut back on advertising. This reduction creates media inventory at reduced prices and reduced competition for attention. The company that maintains or increases its advertising during downturns gains market share while competitors become invisible. When market volatility increases, investors flee to safety. This flight creates bargains in the assets they abandon. The investor who buys what others are selling at panic prices acquires future wealth at present-day discounts. When industry disruption arrives, established players focus on protecting their core business. This focus creates neglect in their peripheral markets. The strategic company expands into those peripheral markets while competitors are distracted by protecting their center. But here's what most people don't understand. Abandoned territory is not necessarily bad territory. It is often good territory that became temporarily unprofitable or temporarily risky. Temporary problems create permanent opportunities for those willing to wait through the temporary part. The restaurant that closes during the recession creates opportunity for the restaurant that stays open to capture its customers. The competitor that reduces service during cost-cutting creates opportunity for the competitor that maintains service to capture its reputation. But let me ask you this. When your competitors retreat from difficult markets or challenging customers, do you retreat with them or do you advance into the space they have vacated? Most people assume that if others are leaving, there must be a good reason to leave. Sometimes this is true. Often it is not. Others leave because they lack resources or patience or vision or courage. Their limitations become your advantages. The wise general does not compete for heavily defended positions when undefended positions are available. He takes the easy victories first, builds strength from those victories, then uses that strength to compete for the harder victories later. Your competitors may be retreating for perfectly rational reasons within their context. They may lack capital or expertise or time or risk tolerance, but their rational retreat within their context creates irrational opportunity within your context. The key is to distinguish between territory that is abandoned because it is worthless and territory that is abandoned because it is temporarily difficult. Worthless territory should remain abandoned. Temporarily difficult territory should be claimed by those capable of waiting through the difficulty. Real estate investors understand this principle. They buy properties in declining neighborhoods, not because the neighborhoods are declining, but because the decline is temporary and the properties are undervalued. They profit when the neighborhoods recover. Stock investors understand this principle. They buy shares in solid companies during market panics, not because the companies are failing, but because the panic is temporary and the shares are underpriced. They profit when confidence returns. Strategic businesses understand this principle. They enter markets during industry downturns, not because the markets are dying, but because the downturns are cyclical and the entry costs are reduced. They profit when the cycles turn positive. The abandoned territory gives you time to establish position, build infrastructure, develop relationships, and create advantages before competitors return. By the time they recognize their mistake in leaving, your position may be too strong to challenge. This requires you to think independently about value. If you only see value where others see value, you will always pay competitive prices. If you can see value where others do not see value, you can acquire assets at non-competitive prices. The crowd mentality creates predictable movements. When fear dominates, everyone moves toward safety, abandoning opportunity. When greed dominates, everyone moves toward opportunity, abandoning safety. The strategic mind moves opposite to the crowd, buying safety when others abandon it and buying opportunity when others abandon it. While your competitors are managing their retreat, you should be planning your advance. While they are cutting back, you should be scaling up. While they are playing defense, you should be playing offense. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. You cannot control the environment if you cannot control your thoughts inside it. The battlefield is won or lost in the mind before it is won or lost on the ground. The market is conquered or conceded in your thinking before it is conquered or conceded in your actions. The mission succeeds or fails in your mental preparation before it succeeds or fails in your execution. I have seen generals with superior armies lose battles because their minds were defeated before their forces were engaged. I have seen merchants with inferior products win markets because their thinking was disciplined while their competitors' thinking was chaotic. The external chaos you face is manageable. The internal chaos you create is what destroys you. Your enemy's confusion is their weakness. Your confusion is your weakness. Master your mind, and you master your environment. Lose your mind, and your environment masters you. When pressure builds, your mind will generate noise, doubt, fear, anger, impatience, confusion. This noise is not information, it is interference. It blocks your ability to receive the signals that matter and process the data that counts. But here's what most people don't understand. Your mind is not something that happens to you. It is something you direct. Your thoughts are not visitors you must entertain. They are tools you can choose to use or choose to dismiss. The undisciplined mind amplifies every problem and minimizes every solution. The disciplined mind minimizes every problem and amplifies every solution. Same environment, different mind, different results. When market conditions become volatile, the undisciplined investor's mind creates additional volatility through emotional reactions. The disciplined investor's mind creates stability through consistent analysis. The market chaos affects both investors equally. The mental chaos affects only one. But let me ask you this. When external pressure increases, does your internal dialogue help you think more clearly or less clearly? The master understands that thoughts create emotions, emotions drive actions, and actions determine outcomes. Control your thoughts, and you control the entire chain that leads to victory or defeat. This is not about positive thinking. This is about strategic thinking. You do not think positively about negative realities. You think strategically about all realities, negative and positive alike. The strategic mind asks different questions than the reactive mind. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" it asks, "How can I use what is happening?" Instead of, "What am I going to lose?" it asks, "What am I going to gain?" Instead of, "How can I avoid this problem?" it asks, "How can I solve this problem?" Your mind is like a radio. It can tune into different frequencies. The frequency of panic broadcasts chaos, confusion, and crisis. The frequency of strategy broadcasts patterns, possibilities, and plans. You choose which frequency to receive. The key is to recognize when your mind is broadcasting from the wrong station and consciously change the channel. This is a skill that requires practice, but it is a skill that determines everything else. Most people allow their minds to be hijacked by circumstances. When circumstances are chaotic, their minds become chaotic. When circumstances are pressured, their minds become pressured. When circumstances are uncertain, their minds become uncertain. The master's mind remains constant regardless of circumstances. When circumstances are chaotic, his mind remains ordered. When circumstances are pressured, his mind remains calm. When circumstances are uncertain, his mind remains focused. This is not natural. This is trained. You must practice mental discipline. When mental discipline is easy, so it remains available when mental discipline becomes difficult. The general who cannot control his own emotions cannot control his troops. The leader who cannot manage his own fears cannot manage his team's confidence. The strategist who cannot discipline his own thoughts cannot discipline his execution. Your competitors are probably allowing external chaos to create internal chaos. Their thinking is being driven by events rather than driving events. Their minds are reacting to problems rather than creating solutions. While their mental resources are consumed by emotional reactions to what has happened, your mental resources should be focused on strategic responses to what will happen. While they are thinking about the problem, you should be thinking about the opportunity inside the problem. The mind that is controlled by circumstances is weak. The mind that controls circumstances is strong. The mind that transcends circumstances is unstoppable. Every day you must train your mind like you would train your body. Discipline your thoughts. Direct your attention. Choose your focus. This daily practice becomes your competitive advantage when daily practice becomes impossible. The ultimate victory is not defeating your external enemies. The ultimate victory is defeating your internal enemies, doubt, fear, confusion, impatience. Before they defeat your mission, you already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. Never join their panic. Attack only when your structure is solid. The greatest mistake in warfare is to engage a disorganized enemy while you yourself are disorganized. Chaos fighting chaos creates more chaos. Order attacking chaos creates victory. But order joining chaos creates defeat for everyone involved. I have watched armies destroy themselves not by facing superior enemies, but by abandoning their own discipline while fighting undisciplined opponents. They won the individual battles, but lost their structural integrity. They defeated their enemies, but destroyed themselves in the process. When your competitors are panicking, your instinct may be to attack immediately while they are vulnerable. This instinct can be correct or catastrophic, depending on the state of your own organization when you attack. The disorganized opponent is dangerous precisely because they are disorganized. They do not follow predictable patterns. They do not respond to rational pressure. They do not retreat when retreat makes sense or advance when advance makes sense. Fighting them requires more discipline, not less. But here's what most people don't understand. Your enemy's chaos is only an opportunity if you can engage it from a position of strength. If their chaos infects your structure, their weakness becomes your weakness. When market conditions create panic selling, the disciplined investor with cash reserves and clear criteria can acquire assets at discount prices. But the investor who panics along with the market or who lacks clear purchasing criteria will make mistakes that compound the market's mistakes. When industry disruption creates corporate chaos, the well-organized company can gain market share from competitors who are struggling to adapt. But the company that allows the disruption to disrupt its own operations will struggle as much as its competitors. But let me ask you this. When your opponents are making mistakes due to poor organization, are you positioned to capitalize on their mistakes, or are you making similar mistakes due to your own organizational weaknesses? The key is to maintain your structural integrity while exploiting their structural breakdown. Your systems must remain functional while their systems malfunction. Your processes must remain efficient while their processes become chaotic. This requires you to resist the urge to abandon your proven methods just because your opponents have abandoned theirs. Your discipline should increase when their discipline decreases. Your organization should tighten when their organization loosens. The wise general does not change his battle formations just because the enemy has abandoned theirs. He uses his superior formation to defeat their inferior formation. He wins not by matching their chaos, but by imposing his order upon their chaos. Your competitive advantage comes not from being as flexible as they are, but from being more organized than they are. Not from being as reactive as they are, but from being more strategic than they are. When competitors slash prices desperately, you do not slash prices desperately. You may adjust prices strategically, but the adjustment comes from analysis, not panic. When competitors fire employees frantically, you do not fire employees frantically. You may optimize your workforce strategically, but the optimization comes from planning, not fear. The strong structure can bend without breaking. The weak structure breaks at the first pressure. When chaos hits your industry, you want to be the strong structure that bends strategically, not the weak structure that breaks accidentally. Attack their disorganization with your organization. Attack their confusion with your clarity. Attack their emotional decision-making with your rational decision-making. But never attack their chaos with your chaos. The organized attack against disorganized defense almost always succeeds. The disorganized attack against organized defense almost always fails. The disorganized attack against disorganized defense usually destroys both sides. Your goal is not to become more chaotic than your chaotic competitors. Your goal is to become more organized than your chaotic competitors. Your order becomes the weapon that defeats their disorder. While they are scrambling to figure out what to do next, you should be executing what you have already planned to do. While they are reacting to circumstances, you should be implementing strategy. While they are improvising desperately, you should be performing systematically. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. Sometimes delay is domination. Hold still until the advantage reveals itself. The pressure to act immediately is often the pressure that destroys the possibility of acting effectively. In chaos, the person who moves first is rarely the person who moves best. The person who waits for clarity often finds opportunities that were invisible to those who moved while vision was obscured. I have won battles by refusing to fight them until the conditions shifted in my favor. I have gained territory by waiting for enemies to exhaust themselves against each other before engaging either one. I have achieved victories by allowing time to solve problems that force could not solve. The world teaches you that speed equals success. This is only true when speed is combined with accuracy. Speed without accuracy is just expensive failure happening quickly. When market chaos creates urgent pressure to make immediate decisions, the companies that resist this pressure often outperform the companies that yield to it. Time clarifies information. Time reveals patterns. Time creates opportunities that pressure destroys. But here's what most people don't understand. Strategic delay is not the same as procrastination. Procrastination is avoiding action because action is difficult. Strategic delay is postponing action because timing is important. The archer does not shoot immediately when the target appears. He waits for the target to move into the optimal position, for the wind to settle, for his breathing to stabilize. Then he shoots once with precision, rather than many times with hope. Your competitors are probably feeling immense pressure to respond immediately to changing conditions. This pressure often forces them to make decisions before they have adequate information, to launch initiatives before they have adequate preparation, to commit resources before they have adequate analysis. But let me ask you this. When everyone around you is moving frantically, are you moving frantically with them? Or are you waiting strategically for the right moment to move decisively? The stock market rewards patience more than activity. The investors who trade constantly usually underperform the investors who wait for the right opportunities and then act with conviction. Activity is not productivity. Motion is not progress. The wise negotiator does not make his best offer immediately. He waits for the other party to reveal their constraints, their priorities, their deadlines. Information gathered through patience becomes leverage applied through action. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your opponents make their moves first, then respond to their moves rather than trying to anticipate them. Their actions provide information that your predictions could not provide. Their revealed strategies become the foundation for your superior counter-strategies. This requires tremendous discipline because the urge to act is powerful when pressure builds. But the urge to act and the wisdom to act are different things. The urge comes from emotion. The wisdom comes from analysis. The key is to distinguish between opportunities that require immediate action and opportunities that improve with careful timing. Some opportunities disappear if you wait. Others improve if you wait. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. While your competitors are reacting to yesterday's crisis, you can be preparing for tomorrow's opportunity. While they are fighting today's battle, you can be positioning for next week's victory. While they are solving immediate problems, you can be creating long-term advantages. The market crash that forces immediate selling by panicked investors creates delayed buying opportunities for patient investors. The industry disruption that forces immediate changes by reactive companies creates strategic positioning opportunities for patient companies. Your patience can become their impatience. Your stillness can become their restlessness. Your waiting can become their rushing. When they rush, they make mistakes. When they make mistakes, you gain advantages. The master understands that in chaos, time is often your most valuable ally. It clarifies confusion, reveals truth, exposes weaknesses, creates opportunities. But only if you have the discipline to let time work for you instead of working against time. No move is still a move. Waiting is still a strategy. Delay can be dominance when delay creates better conditions for eventual action. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. Your job is not to escape chaos, it's to simplify it into action. Complexity is the enemy of execution. When situations become complicated, people become paralyzed. When problems become complex, solutions become impossible. When decisions become intricate, action becomes delayed. The master's skill is not to handle complexity, but to eliminate it. I have defeated elaborate strategies with simple tactics. I have solved complex problems with simple solutions. I have won complicated battles with simple principles. Simplicity is not the absence of sophistication. Simplicity is sophistication refined to its essence. The world will try to convince you that complex problems require complex solutions. This is usually wrong. Complex problems usually require simple solutions applied consistently. The complexity lies in recognizing which simple solution to apply, not in creating elaborate solutions to apply. When market conditions become chaotic, most businesses create complex response strategies involving multiple initiatives, numerous adjustments, and intricate contingency plans. The wise business identifies the one or two actions that will have the greatest impact and focuses entirely on executing those actions perfectly. But here's what most people don't understand. Simplification is not about ignoring complexity. It is about processing complexity until you find the simple truth within it. It is about cutting through all the noise to hear the one signal that matters most. The great generals won battles not because they understood every variable on the battlefield, but because they identified the one variable that would determine the outcome and focused all their resources on controlling that variable. Your competitors are probably developing complicated strategies to address all the challenges they face. Simultaneously, the more challenges they try to address, the fewer they will address successfully. The more priorities they establish, the fewer priorities will actually be prioritized. But let me ask you this. When faced with multiple problems demanding your attention, do you try to solve all of them at once, or do you identify which one? Problem, if solved, would eliminate or reduce most of the others? The master swordsman does not learn 1,000 techniques. He learns 10 techniques and practices them 10,000 times each. Mastery comes from depth, not breadth. Excellence comes from focus, not coverage. The successful investor does not try to understand every factor affecting every market. He identifies the few factors that drive most outcomes and becomes expert at reading those factors. Simple principles, consistently applied, defeat complex theories, inconsistently executed. The key is to find the organizing principle that makes everything else make sense. Every chaotic situation has an underlying structure. Every complex problem has a simple core. Every confusing scenario has a clarifying perspective. In chaos, information overload is common. Data abundance is everywhere. Analysis paralysis is the norm. The strategic mind learns to filter aggressively, focusing only on information that enables action and ignoring information that enables only more analysis. Your goal is not to understand everything that is happening. Your goal is to understand the one thing that, if you influenced it correctly, would make everything else that is happening work in your favor. While others are creating elaborate flowcharts to map all possible scenarios, you should be creating simple decision trees that lead to clear actions. While others are building complex models to predict uncertain futures, you should be building simple systems that adapt to whatever future arrives. The beautiful solution is not the one that accounts for every variable. The beautiful solution is the one that makes most variables irrelevant. The powerful strategy is not the one that prepares for every possibility. The powerful strategy is the one that creates possibilities others must prepare for. Chaos creates complexity. Complexity creates confusion. Confusion creates paralysis. Your job is to break this chain by creating simplicity that enables action. The simple plan that gets executed defeats the perfect plan that gets delayed. The basic strategy that gets implemented defeats the sophisticated strategy that gets discussed. The elementary approach that gets applied defeats the advanced approach that gets analyzed. Strip away everything that is not essential. Focus on everything that is essential. This is how you turn chaos into clarity, complexity into action, confusion into conquest. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. Be so grounded that no crisis can shake you. That's not luck. That's design. The ultimate mastery is not learning to handle crisis. The ultimate mastery is becoming the kind of person who remains unshakable, regardless of what kind of crisis emerges. This is not about managing external events. This is about developing internal architecture that no external event can damage. I have faced armies, plagues, betrayals, disasters, and defeats. What I learned is that the crisis never determines the outcome. The person facing the crisis determines the outcome. The same storm that sinks one ship drives another ship to its destination. The difference is not the storm. The difference is the ship. Your goal is to become the ship that uses every storm as wind for your sails, every crisis as fuel for your engine, every collapse as foundation for your expansion. This is not about avoiding difficulty. This is about transforming difficulty into advantage so consistently that you begin to welcome difficulty as opportunity. The person who remains calm in chaos becomes the natural leader, not because they have formal authority, but because they have gravitational authority. People in crisis are drawn to stability like metal to magnet. Your calm creates a center that others orbit around. But here's what most people don't understand. This: calm is not natural. It is constructed. It is not a gift you're born with. It is a capability you build systematically through deliberate practice and strategic preparation. The master builds redundancy into every system so that no single failure can create total failure. Multiple income sources, multiple skill sets, multiple relationships, multiple strategies. When one pillar shakes, the others hold firm. But let me ask you this. When the ground shifts beneath everyone around you, do you shift with the ground? Or have you built your foundation so deep that no surface movement can affect your stability? Your competitors are probably experiencing the same pressures you are experiencing. The difference between those who thrive and those who barely survive is not the presence or absence of pressure. It is the presence or absence of internal systems designed to convert pressure into power. The wise investor builds portfolios that profit in both rising and falling markets. The strategic business builds models that grow in both expanding and contracting economies. The prepared mind builds frameworks that find opportunity in both favorable and unfavorable conditions. This requires you to think in terms of anti-fragility, not just resilience. Resilience helps you survive crisis. Anti-fragility helps you profit from crisis. Resilience returns you to where you were before the crisis. Anti-fragility advances you beyond where you were before the crisis. The tree that survives the hurricane by bending with the wind is resilient. The tree that uses the hurricane to spread its seeds to new territory is anti-fragile. Your goal is to become anti-fragile. Every crisis contains within it the seeds of the next opportunity. Every collapse creates space for the next construction. Every breakdown enables the next breakthrough, but only for those trained to see opportunity within difficulty and possibility within problem. Your calm in crisis becomes contagious. Your team catches it. Your customers catch it. Your partners catch it. Your calm becomes their confidence. Your stability becomes their security. Your centeredness becomes their compass. While others are asking, "How will we survive this?" you should be asking, "How will we use this?" While others are trying to return to normal, you should be trying to advance to superior. While others are hoping the crisis will end, you should be hoping the opportunity will continue. The Master understands that crisis is not interruption of life. Crisis is preparation for life. Every challenge you successfully navigate builds strength for the next challenge. Every storm you successfully weather builds skill for the next storm. This is not about pretending difficulty does not exist. This is about developing the capacity to remain functional while difficulty exists and strategic while difficulty persists. Be the calm in every storm. Be the stillness in every chaos. Be the center that holds while everything else spins. This is not just a strategy for surviving crisis. This is a strategy for transforming crisis into the fuel that powers your greatest achievements. When the history of this moment is written, let it be said that while others were shaken by the shaking, you used the shaking to discover how unshakable you had become. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more powerful mindset content. Let us know in the comments what part hit you the hardest. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it